about how often you guys get deployed to national disasters like what's happening right now in Texas.
Right. Well, we're always ready, especially during hurricane season. We'll actually, at the beginning of the season, we'll take gear and pack it up and sort of have a list of names always ready to go in the event of. But it's been a while. It's been a couple of years since we actually got called to move forward.
How does that kind of search and rescue differ from what you guys normally do?
Well, does it differ? I wouldn't say it differs too much. I mean, there's always, at the end of the day, the most important thing is that there's somebody in need somewhere, and so that's always your number one concern. Where it gets interesting here is, or in Texas, is that we're, falling in on a pretty large-scale disaster. So everything gets complicated. So basic infrastructure, communications, movement plans, all that kind of stuff. Whereas here it's a fairly simple, in theory, process of getting on a helicopter or a C-130 and going to the mission. Down there, it takes a little bit more effort to make sure that you're dialed into the appropriate command and control networks and have a good plan to sustain yourself for an undetermined amount of time.
What kind of challenges do the guys face when they're down there? I mean, are there, you're saying with like infrastructure and communication, how does that complicate what you guys normally do?
Well, a great example for that is, as the flood event moves and changes, you have sometimes a limited window to get in and close enough to the fight. So in this case, my team is operating off of boats, which means we need to be fairly close to where the mission is going on. So it took a couple days once our folks arrived on the ground to actually get to where there was an existing need. And basic things like rental cars, trailers to move the boats around, and things like that. That takes time. Not to mention the fact that the roads are shut down. So, for example, where they're at in Beaumont right now, or outside of Beaumont, in order to get there, what they did was they had an Army helicopter. It was a Chinook, actually pick up part of the team, move them forward, and the rest of the team sort of followed a couple hours behind with the rest of the vehicles so that they could begin mission prosecution.
When you're looking at such kind of a large-scale disaster compared to, here it's like you'll have one or two people sort of lost in the wilderness, but there it's like this massive thing. Is there a way that you approach that's any different from how you might approach something here?
Not necessarily. We'll have a bigger footprint for that. So, we've got to have folks who are capable of paying attention to what's going on in the command and control side. So it's a little bit more deliberate in terms of setting yourself up to be able to perform those missions. But other than that, the disaster response system within the United States is pretty well established, and it's fairly common and fairly well understood by most organizations that participate in it. So, those things right there that's what we do. We go into uncertain situations and we bring order into the chaos. So.
Talking about that was like, everyone has kind of been watching this approach, and we were like, well, we're not sure if you're going to get deployed. So talking about what that's like when you get that phone call, what then happens once they're like, yeah, we need you?
Well, it's we're spring loaded at that point. So as soon as we get the call, the group text messages, are starting to flow, and everything that we're prepared to do is finally in action. So it's a great moment to know that you're finally going to be able to participate in something that fellow state needs.
Yeah, were you guys pretty sure? Like, was it? I'm sure it wasn't a surprise when they were like, "Hey, yeah."
No. We were, like I said, we've been preparing for days and longer, technically, for something like this to happen. So, at the point that they pulled the trigger and let us go, we're pretty excited to get into the fight.
How does it feel for you guys? You're one of the sort of preeminent search and rescue organizations in the country. So how does it feel to be able to take those skills down to somewhere where they're so desperately needed?
It's great. I've spoken about this before. The paradox of being in the search and rescue business is that we train really hard on a wide variety of skill sets to be ready for somebody who's in need. And so it's a little weird because, when we finally get called, it means something bad has happened. But it's good to know that we're ready when something bad does happen, that those folks are going to be left flat.
Have you been talking to the folks down there? How are they doing?
They're doing very well. We're up to, they started doing missions yesterday outside of Beaumont, and got in a couple hours of work yesterday and then this morning as well. And the last stats that I have are that we've got 41 saves so far off the boats. So.
41?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Wow.
We're pretty happy with that. So.
That's incredible.
Just keep working.
All right. Anything else about, sort of big picture stuff you want to say that I haven't asked you? It's important to know.
No, I mean, I think everything is going as expected so far. Texas was ready for us, and we were ready to help. And the National Guard has done a great job at showing its commitment across the state-to-state level, and our integration with the civil authorities as well. So I would say everything I'm getting from on the ground right now is that we're set up for success.
Just gonna grab a tooth.
How long do they expect to be there? Is there like a deadline or?
Mother Nature has a vote. So we'll see how things go.
Yeah.
There's no deadline right now. It's all needs based, and my guys are anxious to stay there. As long as there's lives that need to be saved, my guys want to be there doing the work.
Yeah, that. I can't even imagine. Do you guys do boat rescues here very often? I know they were doing high water training, but.
Right. Not as often, mostly because we'll work off the C-130s and the helicopters in order to support those missions because it's faster, right?
Right.
But we have done a couple missions here off the boats. Once in a while we'll get called out for that. I think the last one that we did off boats like this, we utilized them for a dive search mission. We recovered the body of an active duty airman from that Blue Lake last year.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So little different though, not driving into flooded areas and pulling people out.
Right. So this is almost. I mean, I don't want to sound sort of minimizing it, but this is almost a good training opportunity for them to do something that they don't get a chance to do that often.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or at least brush up on that skill set.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah.
It is, and we don't get the opportunity to fall in on major architecture like that, for real world stuff. So again, there's a continuing process of giving back, where the things that we do for our state mission give back to our federal mission, which gives back to our state mission, which just increases overall readiness. So whether we're doing it in Alaska, Afghanistan, Iraq, Texas, for us we bring the same level of professionalism to all those operations.
Great.
Sweet.
Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, can
I'm just gonna check this really fast.
If the crisis, in his opinion, requires assets from outside of the state, then he will make requests for assets outside the state. And so the states will help each other in that fashion.
So why was the request made for our Alaska guardsmen to go down there? What kind of skills do they bring to the table that he wanted?
Well, all National Guards in all states have unique capabilities. Alaska is very fortunate in that we have very diverse capabilities, everything from firefighters to civil engineers to strategic airlift to air defense to our PJs who essentially have life-saving rescue capabilities. So I think when you look at all those capabilities and the challenges that they're having with the current crisis, there's a lot of equities that the 176th and the Alaska Air National Guard bring, which are very advantageous to helping the people who are suffering down in Texas right now.
The 14 guardsmen who went a few days ago, I think it was mostly PJs who went, right? So
that's correct. And then our airlift folks who actually got them there. They actually stopped in California as well to pick up some California guardsmen and some of the helicopters and support equipment that they had to get into Texas.
For you, how does it feel to know that our Alaska guardsmen were about as far from Texas as you can get, but they called on you guys because of the skills you bring to the table? What's it like to know that Alaska's known to be able to bring those unique capabilities?
Well, it makes you very proud. I mean, the Alaskans see it every day with what our folks do and how they're able to contribute in our local community. But this is what we train for every day, and we're ready to execute these missions every day. So we're just proud that when called upon that we're ready to execute and that we can help some of the people and hopefully alleviate some of the suffering.
Why is it important that different state National Guards are able to all work together in crises like this?
Well, I think because we're all in it together, right? You never know where the next crisis is going to occur, and so we have processes in place and we train and we have different capabilities. So we work through these things to ensure that when it really happens, we're ready to go. So whether it's a national issue, a warfight abroad, or the homeland defending lives or personal property, or even building partnerships, the Air National Guard is always ready and always there.
Anything else about it you want to say?
No, thanks for taking the time to basically demonstrate to our local community and others what we're capable of doing. So thank you.
I'm gonna grab a quick two-shot. I'm gonna move you this way just a little bit.
Okay.
Nope. Take like
More.
physical. No
Steps.
steps.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
Where do you want me?